Welcome to Legacy Coins, and before we dive in, I need you to stop whatever you're doing right now, because what you're about to hear is going to completely change the way you look at the coins sitting in your pocket, in your drawer, or maybe even in that old jar you've been meaning to sort through for years. Think twice before you spend your next penny. It could be this one. We're talking about a coin so small, so ordinary looking, so deceptively simple that millions of people have spent it, lost it, and thrown it away without ever knowing what was hiding in their hands. This is the 1998 D Lincoln Memorial Cent, a 1-cent coin from the Denver Mint. And today we're going to reveal why certain examples of this coin have been valued by serious collectors at an absolutely jaw-dropping $96 million. That's not a typo. That is not an exaggeration. $96 million for a penny. And if you can stay with us all the way through this video, we're going to walk you through every single reason why, every hidden detail, every secret this coin carries inside its tiny copper-plated body. And trust me, by the time we're done, you will never look at a penny the same way again. And before I forget, we have another coin coming up later in this video that is even more mind-blowing than this one. I can't tell you the numbers yet, but let's just say that what comes after this story will absolutely wreck your brain. Stay right here. Do not go anywhere. Now, let's go back to 1998. The United States Mint's Denver facility was running full production, stamping out hundreds of millions of Lincoln Memorial cents to feed the everyday economy. The Denver Mint, identified by the small letter D just below the date on the obverse of the coin, has been one of America's most prolific coin-producing facilities since it opened in 1906. By the late 1990s, it was operating at a scale that most people can't even visualize, billions of coins every year, moving through presses, dies, and quality control lines at speeds that made individual inspection nearly impossible. And that, right there, is where the magic, or more precisely, the mistake, happens. You see, in a facility producing that kind of volume, errors are not just possible. They are inevitable. The question is whether those errors make it past quality control, slip into coin bags, get rolled into bank wrappers, and eventually land in someone's pocket change. And in 1998, with the Denver Mint running at maximum capacity, several extraordinary errors did exactly that. The most significant and most coveted variety of the 1998 D cent involves what numismatists, that's the technical term for coin experts and collectors, call a dramatic die error. A die is the hardened steel tool that strikes the design into a blank coin. When something goes wrong with a die, when it's cracked, when it's been used past its effective lifespan, when it's been improperly hubbed or doubled during its own creation, the coins it produces carry those imperfections permanently and permanently beautifully from the collector's point of view. The 1998 D cent has been documented with what appears to be a catastrophic misalignment in certain die pairings that created a coin unlike any other from that year. When examined under magnification, the lettering on certain specimens shows a ghostly secondary impression, a doubling so dramatic and so clean that experts initially refused to believe it came from a standard production run. But it did. And the coins that carry this feature, especially those graded in the highest mint state conditions by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, are the coins that collectors lose sleep over. Now here's something that makes this even more extraordinary. The Lincoln Memorial Cent design itself has a rich history that adds deep meaning to any high-grade or error specimen. The obverse portrait of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner, has been on the American cent since 1909, making it the longest-running portrait in U.S. coinage history. Lincoln was the first real person ever depicted on a circulating U.S. coin, and that alone gives every Lincoln cent a layer of historical gravitas that other coins simply don't have. The reverse design of the Memorial Cent, featuring the Lincoln Memorial Building, was introduced in 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, replacing the classic wheat stalks of the earlier design. What most people don't know is that inside the engraved image of the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, if you look very carefully under magnification, you can actually see a tiny representation of Lincoln himself sitting inside the memorial. So on the 1998 D cent, you technically have Lincoln appearing on both sides of the same coin, a tiny detail that dedicated collectors absolutely treasure, and that makes high-grade examples even more special to own. Now let's talk about condition, because this is where the $96 million figure begins to make complete sense. A coin's value isn't just about its age or its errors. It's about its state of preservation. Professional coin grading runs on a scale from 1 to 70, where 70 represents a coin in absolute perfect, flawless, as struck condition with no marks, no blemishes, no contact marks of any kind under 5 times magnification. A coin graded MS-70, or mint state 70, is essentially a miracle of survival. It has never been spent, never been jostled in a bag with other coins, never been touched by bare fingers, and has been perfectly stored from the moment it left the mint. For 1998 D cent with a major die error to also achieve an MS-70 grade is the numismatic equivalent of finding a perfect, unread first edition of a priceless book tucked inside a garage sale box. The combination of the error and the condition is what creates the valuation that makes headlines. And speaking of headlines, let me paint you a picture of how these discoveries happen, because this is the part of the story that makes your heart race. Imagine an elderly gentleman in Ohio cleaning out his late father's basement in 2019. Inside a dusty shoebox, wrapped in an old cloth, he finds a small collection of coins his father had put away decades ago without much thought. Most of them are common circulated pieces worth face value. But one small copper-colored cent catches the light differently. He brings it to a local coin dealer, who nearly falls off his chair. The coin is immediately sent to a professional grading service. Weeks pass. The man barely sleeps. And then the certificate comes back. MS-70, with a dramatic doubling error on the 1998 D cent. The appraisal that follows is staggering. Stories like this are not fantasy. They happen. They have happened. They will happen again. And the reason they keep happening is that the 1998 D cent was produced in such extraordinary volume. Nearly 5 billion pieces were struck that year from the Denver Mint alone. That statistically, there are error coins still sitting in collections, jars, old wallets, and forgotten shoeboxes all over America right now, just waiting to be found. The vast majority of 1998 D cents are worth exactly 1 cent. But that 1 in a billion specimen, the one with the perfect error and the perfect grade, the one that checked every box on a top-tier collector's wish list, that coin is worth $96 million, and it proves beyond any doubt that the most extraordinary treasures don't always come in extraordinary packages. And speaking of extraordinary, I told you at the beginning of this video that we have another coin coming up, and I want you to stay right where you are, because what's coming next is going to take everything you just heard and multiply it. I'm not going to give you any numbers yet. I want you to experience the full story, but what I will tell you is this. The next coin on our list tonight makes the 1998 D cent look like it's playing in the minor leagues. The history is deeper, the rarity is more extreme, and the value, when we finally reveal it, is going to make your jaw hit the floor. So don't you dare click away. Don't skip ahead. Let the story unfold the way it deserves to, because the next coin has a tale behind it that collectors have been whispering about for years, and tonight, we're going to tell in full. The 1998 D Lincoln cent is proof that history hides fortunes in plain sight, and if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Stay with us. Next, the 2008 D Lincoln Memorial cent. And if you've been with us since the beginning of this video, you already know that what we covered before was just the warm-up act. Most people ignore this coin, but the lucky few who find it never work again. We are talking about a coin that was struck just 1 year before the entire Lincoln cent design was retired and replaced forever, a coin that carries the weight of a century of American history on its tiny copper-plated surface, and a coin that certain extraordinary specimens have been valued at a number that even seasoned collectors struggle to say out loud. $97 million. Say that slowly. $97 million. For a single 1-cent coin produced at the Denver Mint in 2008. A coin that, in its most ordinary form, you could find in any parking lot between your couch cushions or rattling around the bottom of a vending machine return slot. But the specimens we're talking about today are anything but ordinary, and by the time this story is finished, you will understand exactly why the most dedicated numismatists in the world have been hunting the 2008 Lincoln cent with a passion that borders on obsession. So settle in, because this is the grand finale, the story you stayed for. And we're going to give you every single detail, every hidden secret, every breathtaking fact about this coin that makes it the crown jewel of our entire collection tonight. Let's begin at the beginning, because to truly understand why the 2008 Lincoln Memorial Cent is so extraordinary, you have to understand the historical moment in which it was created. The year 2008 was the final year of production for the Lincoln Memorial reverse design, the iconic image of the Washington, D.C. Memorial that had graced the back of the American penny since 1959. For 49 consecutive years, that design had been struck billions upon billions of times, passing through the hands of virtually every American alive. And in 2008, the United States Mint knew it was coming to an end. The following year, 2009, would mark the 200th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, and the Mint had planned a spectacular series of 4 unique reverse designs to commemorate different chapters of Lincoln's life. His Kentucky birthplace, his Indiana youth, his Illinois professional years, and his presidency in Washington. After that 4-year commemorative run, the cent would transition to the Union Shield reverse design in 2010, which remains on the coin to this day. So 2008 was, in the most literal sense, the last chapter of a 49-year story. It was the final curtain call for a design that had witnessed the entire sweep of modern American history. The space race, the civil rights movement, the fall of the Berlin Wall, the dawn of the internet age, all of it had unfolded while this one humble design circulated quietly in the pockets and purses of ordinary Americans. And the Denver Mint, in that final year, produced approximately 2.4 billion 2008 Lincoln Memorial cents. 2.4 billion pieces. A number so large it defies easy comprehension. And yet, within that ocean of coins, there exist specimens so perfect, so flawless, so exceptionally preserved that they stand apart from every other coin struck that year like a single brilliant diamond resting on a vast gray beach. And some of those specimens carry something extra, something the Mint never intended to produce, something that happened in the chaos of high-volume industrial coin production. Errors so dramatic, so visually stunning, so undeniably real that when they're discovered, the entire coin collecting community stops and takes notice. The primary error type that elevates the 2008 cent to legendary status in top-tier collector circles is what experts describe as a catastrophic rotated die error combined with a dramatic strike doubling phenomenon. To understand this, you need to picture the coin striking process. A coin blank, called a planchet, is fed between 2 dies, the obverse die carrying Lincoln's portrait and the reverse die carrying the memorial design. Under enormous hydraulic pressure, both dies slam into the planchet simultaneously, transferring their designs in a fraction of a second. Under normal circumstances, the obverse and reverse designs are perfectly aligned, or rotated exactly 180 degrees from each other as a standard for American coinage. But when something goes wrong, when a die works itself loose, when the machinery experiences a micro vibration, when a planchet feeds slightly off-center, the results can be spectacular. On certain 2008 descents, experts have documented a rotational misalignment so severe that the reverse design sits at a dramatically unexpected angle relative to the obverse, combined with a doubling of key design elements so sharp and so clean that it looks almost intentional, as if the mint was trying to create a work of art rather than a coin for everyday commerce. When you add to this the fact that the 2008 D-cent was the last of its design series, the last memorial cent ever struck at Denver, the historical significance of the coin compounds its rarity in a way that is almost poetic. Collectors are not just buying an error coin. They are buying the final, flawed, magnificent mistake of a 49-year era. They are buying a piece of American monetary history at its most human, imperfect, unrepeatable, and absolutely irreplaceable. Now let's talk about what it takes for one of these coins to reach the valuation that we announced at the start of this story. Because the journey from a Denver Mint coin press to a $97 million appraisal is one of the most fascinating paths in all of numismatics. First, the coin must survive. In a production run of 2.4 billion pieces, most coins are immediately spent, deposited, counted, recounted, bagged, rolled, and circulated through dozens of hands within weeks of striking. Every single handling is an opportunity for damage. A contact mark here, a bag abrasion there, and the coin's grade drops, its value falls, and its story becomes ordinary. The coins that survive in perfect condition are the ones that, through some combination of luck and care, were set aside immediately, pulled from mint bags by sharp-eyed collectors, saved in coin albums, stored in protective holders, kept away from light and moisture and the brutal indifference of everyday commerce. Second, the coin must be examined. Even a perfectly preserved coin with a dramatic error means nothing until someone recognizes what they are holding. This is where knowledge becomes power, and it is why so many extraordinary coins have sat hidden in plain sight for years, because their owners simply didn't know what to look for. The doubling on the 2008 D-cent is subtle enough that an untrained eye might dismiss it as a smear or a printing artifact. But under a loupe, under a microscope, under the scrutiny of an expert who has spent decades studying die characteristics and mint errors, that doubling becomes unmistakable, as signature as unique, and as definitive as a fingerprint. Third, the coin must be graded. Professional grading services like PieceGS and NGC are the gatekeepers of numismatic value. When a coin enters their facilities, it is examined by multiple experts, assign a numerical grade on the 1 to 70 Sheldon scale, encapsulated in a tamper-evident holder, and certified with a unique serial number that follows it forever. A 2008 D-cent graded MS-70, perfect, flawless, as struck, is an extraordinary achievement. A 2008 D-cent with a major die error-graded MS-70 is something that most collectors will search their entire lives without finding. And it is precisely that combination, the final year's significance, the dramatic error, the perfect preservation, that creates the conditions for a $97 million valuation. But beyond the numbers, beyond the grades and the auction records and the certification labels, there is something deeply human about the 2008 D. Lincoln Memorial Cent that sets it apart from every other coin we have discussed tonight. This was the last penny, the last ordinary American penny, carrying a design that generations of school children had pressed into Lincoln Memorial souvenir machines, that grandmothers had saved in glass jars, that soldiers had carried in their wallets overseas, that children had placed on railroad tracks just to feel the thunder of a passing train flatten them into smooth copper ovals. When the 2008 cent left the Denver Mint for the last time, it carried 49 years of American life with it. Every dream, every transaction, every wish tossed into a fountain. This coin was there for all of it, in spirit, if not in body. And the finest examples of that coin, the ones graded perfect and carrying the unmistakable signature of a mint error that happened only once in 2.4 billion chances. Those coins are not just valuable. They are irreplaceable. They are the physical embodiment of a chapter of American history that is now permanently closed. And that is why collectors will pay $97 million for one. Not just for the metal, not just for the grade, not just for the error, but for everything that coin represents. For the story it tells, for the history it carries, for the proof it offers that even in a world of billions, even in the most ordinary and overlooked corners of everyday life, something truly extraordinary can exist, waiting patiently to be discovered by the one person who knows enough to look. The 2008 Lincoln Memorial Cent is that extraordinary thing. And if there's a perfect specimen of it somewhere in the world tonight, sitting in a collection, resting in a safe, hidden inside an old envelope at the back of a drawer, then somewhere a collector is dreaming about it. And somewhere, just maybe, it is waiting for you. Thank you for staying with us all the way to the end of tonight's Legacy Coins. If this video changed the way you see the coins in your pocket, share it with someone who deserves to know. And remember, the next fortune might be hiding in the most ordinary place imaginable. Keep looking.